This is it. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're going to do this. We're getting into Sex in the City review and recap. Season 3, Episode 5, or the one that I like to call the day that Aidan shows up and we go down the rabbit hole and the beginning to the end of the Manson family. That's a very long title, but that's exactly what happens between the truth of this episode and how it burns all the way through to the reboot. And just like that. So, without further ado, this is no ifs, ands, or butt, written by Michael Patrick King. Let's get into it. Now, we're going to do this in compartments. I'm going to specify which ones we're going to start off with, because in this episode we have poor Charlotte, who is still looking for her prince by kissing all the frogs in New York City, and she finally meets her match with a man who looks like a frog but actually kisses like a lizard. We have Stanford. Stanford visits the Valley of the Dolls, and I wish I was joking. He really does. Okay? We have Miranda, who has to contend with Steve, her boyfriend, who is now living with her, who has a titty attack baby tantrum because he feels she doesn't support him in his endeavors, so to speak, realistic or not. And then we have our wonderful Samantha, who channels J Lo, J No. This was stupid. We'll get into it, okay? And then last but not least, Carrie. Aidan is here. And when you start off a relationship with a lie, it always ends because of the truth. And here is the black box episode of how they ended up starting the dating where she is to him his Mr. Big as Mr. Big was to Carrie, and how it all started with one simple thing. She can't lie to save her ass, and always the truth will prevail. So, are you ready? I've gathered my thoughts, I've coiffed my hair, I've dressed up for the occasion, and I'm going to give it to you in the way that you like it. So, you know what's next? Stay tuned. And if I bring value to you and you're new to this channel and you're coming across my video for the first time, I hope you consider subscribing to my wonderful community because we have a hell of a lot of fun here. So, my other word is subscribe. Deal breakers in a relationship, specifically for this actual episode. Let's go through eventually when you go onto your comments after you go through this review. What are your deal breakers? Because I have several of my own. And one of them is kissing. And this leads into what I like to call the first two characters, which I'm going to consider them the shorts. Okay? So our first character in a short format would be Charlotte. As the scene opens, she's out on a date, as we normally are at this time of our lives. And because she is still trying to kiss every frog until she meets her Prince Harry, you know what I'm talking about, she ends up on a date with this guy. Or I should say, this guy. Now, I am not one to judge a frog by its cover, but after I saw this scene, not every frog has a cover. And it is actually a snake or a lizard. Because this scene, as he is starting to kiss her for the long kiss goodnight, was one of the most disgusting scenes I've seen in a very long time. And that says a lot. Apparently, her mouth was not appropriate in the area that it should have been in his mind. Because he goes through her entire face as he's sucking her face up. And of course, poor Charlotte, as the ever so, what is it? Park Avenue, Pollyanna, pulls back, and she does make a disgusting face. And I'm like, girl, I would have slapped the shit out of him. Okay. Because that is not even a kiss. That's an attack. Okay. So as the next scene comes in, she's at a restaurant with our beautiful women, and she's describing the attack of her face by this guy named Brad on the date. And they're all like, ew, as she's going through the myriad of different emotions. And each one of them describes their deal breaker when it comes to kissing. You know, the darting of the lips, the just sitting there kind of scenario. That's Samantha, of course. And they're all trying to explain to her, you know, this is not a good situation. He's a bad kisser. And, you know, Samantha tells her, honey, you need to dump him. And of course, Charlotte, never one to give up on anything, says, you would break up with somebody because he's a bad kisser? Yeah. And that's what Samantha says. She says, honey, what do you think if he's a bad kisser? What do you think he's going to be in bed? Now, I don't go that far because once you start to be a bad kisser, I'm not even going to think about going to bed with you because that's a deal breaker to me. You're done. Goodbye. Okay? And she goes, well, maybe I can teach him because, you know, she always has to give an alternative to breaking up with someone because she won't give up. She's just like one of those people, like, I'm going to keep this guy until I can fix him. She scares me, has always, and I now am reminded why. So my theory is, as the writers are going through this, which is Michael Patrick King, you know, this has happened and maybe somebody wanted to stay with this person and try to fix them. Here's the thing. If you're trying to fix a bad kisser at the age group that they are in, which is in their mid-30s, it's not that you can train them. It's just that they never going to change. That is their thing. And you either accept it and you walk around with a bad kisser for the rest of your life, or you walk away with some dignity and you say, I'm going to keep digging for flaws. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. Charlotte, what are you doing? I mean, I know that the pool out there is very small, but my God, come on. Thank God she doesn't stick with this guy. So what happens after she proclaims that she's going to teach him? Okay. She is on her second date with Brad, the lizard frog. And she is giving him instructions on how to kiss her. I'm going to tell you this entire scene, I'm listening to this and I'm like, girl, that's a lot of instructions. She likes it when he lightly touches her tongue and her mouth. And, you know, she's going play by play. I'm like, seriously? You mean to tell me that every guy you've kissed has kissed exactly this way? That seems awfully specific. Charlotte. Okay. I wasn't buying the scene. And he's trying to appease her. And, you know, as Carrie narrates, all of a sudden, you know, Brad's stock is actually rising. She thinks that she's actually getting through to him. And then comes in the snake. And he goes at her mouth again. Literally her mouth, her chin. I'm like, okay, is it because your eyes are closed that you don't understand where her lips are? Because that is really odd. I had to think back, and I actually took about a day to think about this. Had I ever met anyone that I didn't like their kissing to this extent? And I think, thankfully, unless I completely blocked it out of my head for some reason, which could be a lot, I don't believe I've ever met someone that I didn't like their kissing. Being in bed with them wasn't a pleasure. That I can distinctly remember, but never a bad kisser. Knock on wood. Ow. So she tells him, stop, stop, stop. And he's like, what's the matter? He goes, I can't do this. My mouth is up here. Brad, you're a bad kisser. And he looks completely like a deer in the headlights. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? That's my thing. She goes, no. And that's it. She walks away. So she came, she tried, and she failed. So the frog snake has now left the building. And that is the contribution that Charlotte's storyline gave us in this episode. One deal breaker down. You have a bad kisser. Charlotte goes above and beyond. She tries to fix it. She realizes that it's unfixable. I could have told her that and saved her whole face. massage. And that's it. Now we get into short number two, Stanford and the Valley of the Dolls. They do the Valley of the Dolls, our friend Stanford. So Stanford has found a new beau as he drags Carrie to a furniture shop owned by Aidan, which we'll get into the Carrie Chronicles. He ends up eyeing Marty Mendelson, who is a designer, and he's attracted to him. So Carrie tells him to go for it. And as he goes for it, the next scene we have is that he ends up with Marty Mendelson, doesn't say how much time has passed, in his boudoir as they are getting friendly with each other. Marty takes him over to his bedroom and turns on the light, and there we have it, the Valley of the freaking Dolls. What the hell is this crap? Okay, they're all porcelain dolls, all specialty types of dolls. Very nice, cute, but do you need to have them splattered all over your bed and on your nightstand? What kind of love making does this guy think he's going to have? Listen, I don't care if I turn off anybody in this conversation. Having dolls, teddy bears, anything like that all over your bed and on your nightstand over the age of 12 is not acceptable. Pushing 13, maybe 14, depending. But after that, you put them somewhere else or you just don't get them anymore. Okay. This was ridiculous. All right. Because the worst part of it is that he has them on his bed. If he wants to put them somewhere like a showcase and like behind a glass door or something like that, sure. We have collectibles. People collect things, but they put them on their bed with the expectation of when every time you want to be with someone in the love making, you are expected to move your doll collection, which is supposed to be priceless, and the person that you're going to have these boudoir sessions to help you move the dolls so you can be on bed. How old are we? I know that he's not 20 and he's not 14. He's at least 40. Okay. So I don't know what kind of scenario this happened to someone in the writer's room, but that would have been like, yeah, listen, check it out. Cute dolls, I'm out. I don't care, gay, straight, up and down, all around. No. Because now he's telling him that he needs to put the doll in a specific place because she goes specifically somewhere. So this is every time you're going to have sex, you're going to have to do this, ritual. Hell to the out. So this is very frustrating for Stanford because the next scene we have, he is with Carrie in her living room, or I guess side room, her actual apartment that we all still enjoyed until they mucked it up and then just like crap. And he's complaining to Carrie about Marty Mendelson and his doll collection, and he can't be expected to be excited about the new doll that's coming in from, I don't know, Timbuktu about somebody. And he's like, I was willing to overlook his receding hairline. Can someone please explain to me people who have receding hairlines or are bald don't want to or want to pretend that they have to accept somebody else's receding hairline? This is not the first time I've heard this. Is this really true? It's like if you're overweight, you won't date someone that's overweight, but you expect them to like you for being overweight. Am I cuckoo? Or does that sound odd to you? Did then, it does now. Sorry, but it does. Okay? So Carrie gives him a look, of course. And he's like, I was willing to overlook that. I'm like, well, thanks. And Carrie, it tells him, when was the last time that you had a crush that actually, was coming to fruition? And he goes, fine, I'll deal with it. Stanford. This is the deal breaker. The next scene we have is that he's back at the Valley of the Dolls boudoir, Marty Mendelson, and something got inside Stanford. He was like, that's it. I'm going for it. I want this man. And his passion took over him. And he starts to take off his clothes. And then he jumps onto the bed and he forces, Marty Mendelson not to remove the Valley of the Dolls off the bed. We're going to do it. We're going to do it now. We're going to do it here with the dolls watching. I don't give a furry rat's behind. Still weird. Sorry. As they're tossing and turning all over the bed, expectedly so, one of the dolls falls off the bed, and you can hear the crack. And Marty gets up, and he realizes that all the jumping on the bed without the dolls being removed on his nightly ritual every time he wants to have sex, and even sleep for this matter, because imagine he sleeps on that bed, so every night he has to remove those dolls and then put it back in. That's dedication in a very stupid way. Put it somewhere else, you freak. And then, as he gets up and realizes that the doll's face is broken, Stanford makes a face like, oh crap, my passion took over, kind of, damn it. And as Carrie narrates, that was a deal breaker to Marty. Him breaking the doll, because his passion has taken over, and he could not understand that anyone's passion, despite the fact that you have a bunch of porcelain dolls all over you, should be the first thing you should be grateful for. You freak! So there goes Stanford. He won't be visiting the Valley of the Dolls anymore. He got kicked out. That's short number 2. Now we're going to get into the little longer forms of our other ladies, our main ladies. Next up, Miranda and her little boy throwing a temper tantrum because he won't get his way. Guess what? They do. Steve and Miranda. Steve's titty attack, baby tantrum, menstruating month must have appeared, because this one threw me off completely. The entire freaking scene. Miranda comes in, minding her own business, and Steve is skipping through the very long hallway of Miranda's beautiful apartment. And he's like, hey, I had a great day. You know that half-court shot in the Knicks game where they pick someone and they can earn $1 million if they make that shot? And she's like, yeah, kind of, sort of. And back then I didn't follow anything on basketball. And I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, where we're going with this. But I do remember it being a thing. And I want to say, at least I remember one person actually winning. Don't ask me when. Don't ask me how. But for some reason, someone made that $1 million shot. And I remembered vaguely. So he's like, next weekend or sometime, it's going to be me. I got picked out of the Sam Goody contestants that I entered. And the only thing I heard was Sam Goody. Oh my God. Sam Goody. Who remembers Sam Goody? Raise your hand. You know I can't see you, right? I'm just going to presume you raised your hand, because this is only a one-way mirror. Okay? I used to love Sam Goody. It was where you had your music. So I heard that and I was like, ooh, damn, they don't have those anymore. Now we get everything on the internet and on, your phone. Those were the days you actually went out and you enjoyed things. Now we just go in and hibernate in our homes and not enjoy things. Okay, tangent over. So, he wants her to watch him next weekend play at the basketball courts as he practiced to do this half shot. And he's like, can you please come? She goes, yeah, sure. I'll go next weekend. No problem. I'll watch you. She goes, are you really sure? He goes, yeah, I'll go. And he starts to throw the basketball against the wall. And she's like, hey, that's Ralph Lauren paint. I hate consumerism sometimes and labels. So the next scene we have with them is it's the weekend, and he's like, come on. She's sitting at her table and she's obviously going through work. It's the weekend. And she's like, come on, come with me to the basketball courts. You promised that you were going to come with me this weekend and watch me, practice. And she goes, oh yeah, no, I got this FedExed over to me and it's due Monday and I have to, do her job. And he's like, no, come on. You made a promise. She goes, no, I really need to do this. And he goes off on her. Okay. He's like, what the F? And why can't you do things because I asked you to? And, you always doing this. You know how many, law things I've gone to for you, and I always do what you want me to do. And she's like, what the F is the problem? And I'm thinking, first of all, since we don't really see from this point, from when he made the move to move in to now he only been to one thing that I remember, where she had to get him a new suit, or she tried to get him a new suit. So this development of him always going to things that she wants him to go to was kind of like, wow, okay, I guess they've been together a little bit now. So, as he's jumping around like an idiot saying that you never believe in me, that why can't you believe in me even if you think it's stupid? And why can't you, back me up? And, it's always something with you. We can't move in together. We can't do this. If you're going to believe in this relationship, you need to believe in me, no matter how stupid you think it is. When you have that moment when you realize what you sound like when you are going off on your significant other. For me, it's boyfriends. That was the epiphany moment for me. I'm like, that is what I must sound like when I go off on a boyfriend for no particular reason out of fucking nowhere, excuse my language. And they're looking at me like, what did I do? I just literally turned my head and you're jumping on me like a white on rice. Because that whole scenario, I was like, are you kidding me? You're living in her apartment better than the basement from the movie Taxi Driver that we saw you in last season. And the woman is working. She is an attorney, just significant as a doctor. Would you get pissed at her if she had to go and, I don't know, do brain surgery and she couldn't go watch you play or practice? Why is it so different for you to feel that it's okay to berate her while she's trying to get her job done? The one that supports the home, because, one of the things that I don't understand is, what does he contribute to this relationship financially? Because they never really established that. All I know is that, I'm going to jump out of this scene for a second, is that there is a scene between her and Carrie at Magnolia Bakery, which I'm presuming this is the first time this bakery was shown and has blown up since, even as many years as it's been this episode. I've never been to Magnolia Bakery. First of all, I can't, because I'm a diabetic. And if I go in there, it's just, I know that I will lose it, because it looks delicious. But if anybody's been to Magnolia Bakery, let me know if it's as good as they make it seem like. Between now, that is the hottest thing on TikTok and fucking YouTube and everywhere else. Everybody's talking about this damn place. Okay, it still exists. If you haven't, will you go? And if you go, can you have one for me, please? And tell me how it is, because, oh, it looks delicious. So in this scene with Carrie and Miranda's expressing to Carrie about, the half court shot that Steve is so excited about. And she gets upset, not upset, but she's quejando. Quejando means that she's complaining, okay, in Spanish. That, she wishes that Steve had better dreams. Why can't he think about opening up his own bar? It's coming. This thing about him making that half court shot during the Knicks game is unrealistic, and that she's expected to be excited about it. And I can kind of see where she's going again, and this is why I say, when he has his little attack on her, I still haven't figured out what is the financial setup between them. Is he contributing at all? 20%, 10%, 30%, 40%? What is he doing? Because they've never really talked about that, other than the fact that, she makes more money than he does. And this is her apartment, and he's been invited to live with her. Okay. So we kind of got some groundwork there to understand where, she fits in this whole dichotomy, saying that, I wish that he had better dreams and that he opens up his own bar and all that stuff. But that whole scene about him getting on her about, why don't you believe in me? We can never move in together. I'm like, I get you, bro, dude, Steve, but you better check yourself. Okay. Because she's not hanging out knitting or going out to drinks with her friends. The woman is doing her job. Respect. So as he storms off, because it must have been his time of the month, menstruation month, okay, the next thing you have is that he's playing around the basketball courts, trying to, make that half court shot for his $1 million. And he sees Miranda because I guess whatever he said affected her, because when you have a temper tantrum, 99.9% of the time, you win. Says no one ever. Okay. So she's watching him and he's trying to make the shot. He doesn't make the shot. And it narrates, as Carrie says, even though Steve never made the shot, not even at the Madison Square Garden, half court, it was very comforting to have Miranda show up for him at the courts the way that she did. What is the lesson we're learning here? Invite a man in. You make more money than him. He's ruining your Ralph Lauren paint. He's running around thinking that he's going to win $1 million for a half court shot that not even the Knicks players can make. He jumps down your throat because you're working on a Saturday, not during the week. This is her day off. Okay. You have a titty attack. You go and you make a big scene. You walk out. She shows up, and that's it. That was the entire, contribution that these two has made in this scene. Now I know why some people feel the way they do about Steve, because this one pissed me off. I was like, dude, slow your roll, okay? And that's it. Does it work out? Well, we all know what happens, right? So next we have Samantha and the J-Lo. Oh, no. Stay tuned. Samantha channeling J No Ho Lo. Okay? Warning, this can trigger people, even back then, but we were a lot more freer to speak our mind in television and shows and movies than we are now, because whenever someone brings any of these topics up now, it is a literal brawl fight on the internets. Okay? So if you have not seen this episode, or if you recall this episode, it was jarring to me back then, but for very different reasons. And it's still jarring now for the same reasons, on top of that, compounded what we've gone through in this woke DEI kind of, liberal, non-liberal society that we live in, that everyone has an opinion like everyone has a butthole. Okay, here we go. As we are in the restaurant, from the first scene where Charlotte is describing her frog lizard date, we are introduced to this woman, Adina, who is the chef and owner of a new restaurant, Fusion, who happens to be friends with Carrie, and that's why they're at the restaurant, as they are going through the different types of food that she has fused together and how wonderful everything is. Adina's brother, Siobhan, shows up, and the only thing I saw was a lot of bling, which comes up actually. Very handsome man. She introduces him as the person that brings her all of the music industry people into her restaurant, because he works in the music industry. And he recalls meeting Samantha. And he says, didn't I see you at, the J-Lo, I want to say label, Jennifer Lopez? And she goes, yes, I was there, but I don't remember. I would remember seeing you. Yeah, baby. Samantha's already on the prowl. My firm handled the PR. And he goes, oh, well, I must have seen you. You didn't see me. And she gives him her card, and she's like, well, here's my card. You can call me for whenever you want to party or whatever else you need. I got to give it to Samantha. She knows how to throw it down. And he just looks completely enthralled. He's like, whew. Like you could see like something hit him at that moment. He goes, I got to get me some of that. And that comes up because after he leaves, that's exactly what Samantha says. As the girl says, oh, he's so cute. He goes, yeah, I got to get me some of that. And here we go. Trigger warning. Freaking Charlotte is like, don't speak like that. And Samantha's like, speak like what? You know. She goes, stop with the knee-jerk liberal reaction. That wasn't black talk. That was sex talk. My God, do you know what it would be if we were to have an episode like that now? Knee-jerk liberal reaction? That's not black talk. Charlotte offended my ears at the time. She goes, it's not black talk. It's African American talk. And I'm just watching this then and I'm thinking about me and my girlfriends laughing our asses off when we saw the scene. We're like, where are we going with this? And even now I'm like, wow, I know where we went with this. And it sounds as ridiculous now as it did then, coming out of any one of them. Okay. So, she nabs the date. Okay. And the next thing you have is that he takes her to a club and she's dressed. I personally didn't like this outfit. I thought it was kind of whack, but he takes her to a club and they're going through, he's talking to people who are talking about the business, the music industry. And as Carrie narrates, Samantha fits right in as she introduces herself to him, to everybody in the crowd. She's literally the only white woman. And when I tell you white, Samantha's white. Her skin color is white and she sticks out regardless of what she's wearing, like a sore thumb. Got it. The next thing you have is that they're in bed together, her and Siobhan, and he's playing one of the musics that he's going to try to back up, I guess. And she's like, it's very smooth. It's like an R&B kind of rap thing. And it's so funny because as she's saying, oh, I thought rap had a harder edge. And he's like, it could be hard or soft. And me and my girlfriends are like, oh, it's so cute when white people try to understand music. Seriously. So as they're in bed, she's like, I normally don't date guys who have better accessories than I do. And she's touching his earrings. Where did you get these earrings? He's like, Tiffany's. I'm like, wow. Okay. And, she says, I hope that you can stay the night. And as Carrie narrates, she rarely asks anyone to stay the night. And, except for the fact that she wanted to wake up with his Tiffany's. I'm like, Michael Patrick King, really? You had to tie that into the script completely? Got it. You think it's over? Of course not. Because now he took her back to Fusion, where his sister's restaurant. And as they're, chit-chatting, the sister comes by and says that, hey, our aunt is about to leave. And he's like, oh, let me introduce you, Samantha. And she's like, no, you say goodbye. I'm going to sit here and talk to Samantha. I knew back then, as I know now, I was like, we were all my girlfriends were like, whoa, this no be good. I don't know why back then we just knew like, yeah, this is not going to turn out well. And it doesn't, because as she sits down and she's asking her politely, you know, um, tell me about you and my brother. And, Samantha's like, well, we're dating. She goes, oh, so you're not just sleeping with him? And she goes, well, it's none of your business, but no, we're not just sleeping together. I really like him. And Adina, the sister, is like, well, you can't date him. And Samantha's like, well, what do you mean? She goes, no, you're white and I will not allow my brother to date a white woman, period. So you need to get the step in. And that's my, version of the year 2000 word. And Samantha's like, but I don't understand. She goes, no. And my opinion about who my brother dates is very important to him. She leaves. The next thing you have is that she's at the restaurant, not the restaurant, but the diner with the girls. And Samantha's like, "Ah, I can't believe that she tried to diss me like that." And I'm like, oh my God, my ears were hurting. I was like, stop it. It doesn't sound good coming out of your mouth like that. And of course, Carrie's like, did she just say this? And everybody's laughing at the table because she feels Samantha is like, she can't tell her who she can and who she cannot be with. And as Charlotte brings up, she should break up with him because race is a very sensitive subject. And I have to say that it's not just a African American / Black Hispanic thing. Okay. A lot of cultures feel the same way. I know a few people who are Jewish religion and or Hasidic or whatever, and they won't date outside of that religion. It goes across the board, and I'm sure other religions feel that way. It was something that when my ex-husband, who was Sicilian, I was I'm Puerto Rican, it was a thing in his family. They were not happy about it. Okay. So I kind of understood what Charlotte was saying and how they were going to go down this road. Of course, I wasn't married back then, but it did resonate with me after I met the family and I realized that, they didn't like me because of my Hispanic background. And that goes again for a lot of different cultures. But they were focusing on the Black community. Okay. So she's not going to be dissed. How does she succeed this? The next scene you have is that she's back at another club. And dear God, when I saw this outfit back then and I see it now, it is still as hideous as it is then as it is now. I'm like, I understand the name dropping of J-Lo and I get all that and I understand that, but that was just not. I've seen Samantha in some crazy shit. We all have. But this was just way too much for what they were trying to perceive. Okay. So she's in the dance floor, kiss it. Hmm. And then all of a sudden he walks away and the sister comes by and she's like, I told you to stay away from my brother. And Samantha is pleading her case. And she's like, Adina, you don't even know me. Get to know me first, And she goes, no, I don't want you with my brother. And that's it. This goes down into a conversation that's very uncomfortable. So I'm going to try to remember as much as I can because it was pretty jarring to me. She's like, Adina's like, listen, I told you to stay away from my brother. You don't understand. This is a Black thing. Okay. Samantha walks out. She turns her back around because in her mind, as Carrie narrates, no one's going to tell her who not to be with. So she tells that to Adina. She goes, you can't tell me who I can and cannot be with. And she uses the F word. And Adina goes off on her. She goes, I don't care how many J-Lo dresses you have in your closet. You will not be with my brother. And I said to myself, exactly who she was trying to mimic was J-Lo in a very bad way. Get your white vajayjay away from my brother. Samantha comes back and says, get your Black ass out of my face. Mind you, they're in a club full of Black people. So for a white person to say, get your Black ass or say anything in that reference, she's lucky she didn't get jumped in her J-Lo dress. Okay. Because who does jump her as she tries to walk away after she makes her statement is Adina. She grabs her hair and they start going at it. And it's the stupidest scene I've ever seen in my life. As the brother comes by and tries to break it up, I'm just sitting there. I could not understand the messaging of what was the purpose to this. To bring to the forefront that there is a cultural war and it doesn't necessarily have to be white against Black. It could be Black against white. I do know a lot of Black people who don't want to date or have anyone date outside of their race. And that's their choice, right? The beautiful thing is that we have options. It was kind of odd that the sister was so adamant on this. I think that she did step beyond her means. Like, I would not tell my brother who to date. My brother's married to I want to say German Irish person. I know that she's German. I think she's not 100% German. Do you think that I would go in there and be like, listen, you're going to only date a Puerto Rican? Are you crazy? But I do know a lot of people who feel very strongly about this, and I respect that. It was just that when I saw the scene and I saw the outfit, it threw me out of the moment. And the whole thing about it being on Samantha and how this whole thing turns out to be your white vajayjay and your Black ass and the music and the Tiffany's and the bling. And I'm like, he tried to do something. He tried to bring something, but in the way that he was doing it, it kind of lost in translation for me. I think that it could have been done a lot better and a lot more sensitive. Um, it teetered on being interesting and it just got campy. That's the word that I'm looking for. It just got campy. I was like, yeah, sure. Okay. The fight breaks up. The next scene you have is that Siobhan is telling Samantha that, his sister is very important to him and her opinion is very important to him. And that, after their mother died, she was always there for him. And he's going on and on saying that, at the end of the day, he can't be with her because his sister does not want to have him date a white woman. And he's going to listen to his sister. So the deal breaker for this person, Samantha, she kisses him. She doesn't argue with him. And she walks away in her J-Lo impersonation dress, as Carrie narrates, that she knew that it was Samantha's white vajayjay that was the problem. It was that Siobhan was a vajayjay. Okay. And for that was her deal breaker. She can't be with someone that can't stand up to anyone, even his sister. And that's it. So I didn't get much out of this, out of the fact, even back then and now, that it was something that was brought up. Somebody brought this up in the writer's room. How or why it had to be brought up in this campy way, I'm not sure. But I just know that now, as I say the words, you know, trying to be clean on YouTube and everything else, and I'm just like watching this, and I'm like, could you imagine us speaking like this now and having these issues brought up now? You know, like we can't even have a TV show without someone on the internet screaming right or left, liberal or not, about how bad it is and how woke it is and how this it is. And I kind of missed it. I could only tell you this much. Watching this made me miss one thing: how free and open we were able to bring things up without being nailed to the stake. Which is why I wish that it would have been done less campy, more serious. But those were the times. That's what we lived in. The fact that we were even able to bring it up has to mean something, right? Now you can't. Literally, you get ostracized. So I appreciate it for what it was for the time. It was an interesting topic. Could have been done better, but I did get the point of what was going on even back then. That it is a sensitive subject: race, religion, culture. Some people are just, they want what they want, and that's it. There's no way around it. You know, I personally wouldn't have done that. Let me know your thoughts about that. Next up, the creme de la creme. Our last character, Carrie, and the way we lie. Because once you practice to deceive, you know the rest. Stay tuned. The beginning of the end. Where the black box is starts in this episode. The start of what will turn out to be Aidan's final arc as the head of the Manson family in the reboot, and Just Like Crap. It starts here. So let's begin. We have Carrie, who is in her apartment. Mind you, no shoes on. Because, as you all know, if you've watched And Just Like Crap, when she was somewhat harassing the hobbit that lived downstairs in the hobbit house, she was walking around in her apartment consistently with heels because she cannot walk around without wearing heels. Ironically, in most of Sex and the City, she was not that anal retentive. As she's sitting there reading her magazine, Stanford shows up and says, "Hey, there is a new furniture store opening, and I want to go down and take a look." And as Carrie's like, "Oh, well, no, I have plans to be with my magazines all day." And he shows her a picture and he says, "He's straight." I don't know how that works. I don't know if it was something that was put into the newspaper that this is a new guy who's opening up a furniture store, and by the way, he's straight. But I laughed my ass off when I saw that scene then and now. Gaydar? I don't know. So her and Stanford at the furniture store opening, and as it narrates, she notices Aidan. Well, I should say Stanford notices Aidan, and the narration, his name was Aidan Shaw. He was warm, masculine, American classic, just like his furniture. I'm like, okay, that's a hell of an intro. And you could tell that he noticed her as he lets his dog go, Pete. And Pete has a way of humping random people in the store. As he's humping on Carrie, Aidan comes by and tells Pete to get off of her. And I'm like, well, that's a not fixed dog. It's very specific. And he tells her, well, he only picks beautiful women. I'm like, oh boy, who is this doofus? Okay. That's my first reaction when I saw him. I was like, what's happening? What's going on? I didn't like anything about him. I'm sorry, but I didn't. He was way too much of whatever was hell was going on there. The hair, the rings, the all jean outfit. I know it was the late 2000s, but come on, or early 2000s. So he's like, I shouldn't let him run around in my store. And Carrie, who already knew that this was his store, this is the reason why she was being dragged down there, says, "Oh, is this your store?" Blinking her eyes. And I'm like, oh. And as she narrates, as soon as the lie came out of my mouth, I knew I was kind of interested. Lie number one. Okay. And he says, yes. She was just looking around for furniture and he says, I love this chair. And he drags her over to the chair, the infamous chair that now stays in the apartment for most of the series. And as he's grabbing her hand to feel the leather that's over 100 years old, and he takes and he rubs the leather with her hand, Carrie is like, I'll take it. And as she narrates, she wasn't into the furniture or looking to buy a piece of furniture, but she had to have whatever she felt at that moment. As she looks at the price, she says, I'm a designer. Because apparently, from Stanford's words, if you name that you're a designer, you get a discount. Carrie Bradshaw Designs. I guess she thought about that on the fly. Excuse me. Little dry in my basement. I guess she couldn't think of any other words, so it's Carrie Bradshaw Designs. He says, okay, well, with the discount and the dog humiliation, he gives her a price. We don't really see the change. And she's like, okay, great. He's like, where would you like me to deliver it and when? So she tells him, and he says, and by the way, can I take you out to dinner? Carrie, as typical women, says, would you knock another $10 off the price? And in my head, I'm like, woman, this man just gave you a fake designer discount because you do not design anything, okay? Not even the show. On top of that, he's going to take you out to dinner, pay for it, and you still want another $10 knocked off? This is why I be broke, and this is why she not be broke. Smart move, Carrie. Okay, now the date. I guess it ended because she's on her stoop with Aidan, and they're talking crap. Doesn't mean, he's just talking about the humping of the dog. And then she confesses that she's not really a designer. Finally, I guess the truth will set you free. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm a writer. And as she is speaking to him, she's about to dig into her purse to get her cigarette. And she says, I don't lie about anything, just about the furniture. I promise. As she starts to light up, Aidan looks at her and he goes, you're a smoker? Now, I found that very odd because most smokers, majority of them, even if they try to hide it, the smell is in your clothes, especially the way she smokes in her apartment. It's in your hair. It's in your sheets. It's in your walls. I've been with a lot of smokers. I don't know how he didn't realize she was a smoker. I don't know what kind of magic perfume she had on, but I would love to get me some of that. Yeah, I went there. Yeah, I did. Listen, she's like, oh, no, just a little. She narrates again. The minute I heard that lie come out of my mouth, I knew I was more than just a little interested. Lie number two. Mm-hmm. She goes, I'll get an Altoid. And me and my girlfriends were laughing because we knew about Altoids, but we didn't use it for the way that she was using it. If anybody knows what we're talking about, drop a wink in the comment below. You know what I'm talking about. So as she's digging through her purse and she asks him to hold on to her pack of cigarettes and lighter, he tells her, my deal breaker, I really can't date a smoker. And she is completely shocked. If only that was the case. Aidan. He should have stuck to his guns. She goes, oh, okay. She was completely shocked. So the next scene we have, she's at the diner with the girls, and she's making her plea as we listen to Samantha, who's still conversating about Siobhan and the fact that she got dissed by the sister, Dina, and that, he's a wonderful guy and he has a big back, big, and as she's trying to finish her sentence, Charlotte, who has been attacked by her face, says, yes, I know he has a big black cock, a big black cock. If you had any stereotypical script writers, that would be the point that I knew that honey, we're still in Kansas, okay? Really? So then she's corrected by Samantha, I was going to say a big heart. And then Miranda says, you must mean an African American cock. I'm like, the burning of my ears. Will it ever end? I was just so annoyed by the scene. I was like, come on, guys, can we get to the story? Well, the story is that Carrie feels that she should not be rated by her smoking. She's trying to make a plea stating that smoking is who I am. Okay. And I shouldn't be dumped for who I am. I shouldn't change who I am. And I'm just listening to this. I'm like, okay, sure. Then date another smoker. Okay. And all the girls at the table is like, oh, honey, give up the cigarettes. We don't like it. We only put up with it because we love you. Okay. And Miranda's like, okay, so wait a minute. You're going to dump a guy because of cigarettes? And she goes, well, he's not that cute. Well, you bought furniture because he was that cute. And she's still trying to make the play that, she should be able to smoke a cigarette and date whoever she wants. Completely oblivious to the truth. When I tell you oblivious, oblivious. And then she tries to wrangle in poor Samantha. And she's like, yeah, no, me fighting for Siobhan is one thing, but you holding on to those nasty cigarettes, well, that's just whack. I'm like, if I hear one more freaking pun, I'm going to scream. And I had to watch this twice. So I screamed. Okay. So the next scene we have her, Carrie, being with Stanford in the apartment, bitching, as Stanford is bitching about the Valley of the Dolls incident and how he needs to not be with someone with a receding hairline. She's complaining that she feels that she shouldn't have to compromise herself on what's wrong with cigarettes as the cigarette smoke is billowing through amongst them, okay, in the apartment. And that, maybe after, they both try to convince themselves that they're both right, but they know they're wrong. She says, maybe I'll just give it up just a little bit just to see how things go. I don't know how you give up a little bit on cigarettes or any kind of thing that is addictive, but sure, let's try. The next thing we have, she's going to go get her Hamans, her warm, masculine, classic American man. So she goes back over to the scene of the crime, because that's where the scene of the crime begun, to his furniture store. Pete jumps on top of her again. Aidan comes back and he says, Pete and I were just getting over you. Like, dude, you're jonesing. You got it bad. Okay. She says, listen, I figured we can give this another try. I can give up smoking. And he's like, could you really do that? Dude, the fact that you don't even realize what that entails says a lot. Because you just don't go cold turkey. I'm sorry, you just don't. She goes, I think you think I smoke more than I do. I only smoke with a cocktail. Pause. Yes, that might be true. But the problem is that Carrie has a cocktail every 15 minutes. You know what I'm talking about. He's like, okay, would you like to go out for coffee then? And as she notes and narrates, she goes, the minute I heard the word coffee, I wanted a cigarette. Item 3. Next thing you have is that coffee date, as they're walking through the avenue or the streets of New York, turned into a coffee, turned into a long talk, turned into a movie, turned into the fact that now she's cold turkey without a cigarette and she's jonesing. He goes, hey, would you like to get a quick bite to eat? And she literally hesitates and she thinks about it. She goes, yeah, sure, a quick bite. And she's dreading it because she hasn't had a cigarette for maybe 4 hours at best. As he tries to get her to pay attention to what he's saying, she looks up and she realizes what she would be giving up, which is Aidan, because he's cute in her mind, for cigarettes. And she goes, sure. As 2 smokers pass by her, she's like, I'm like, girl, I don't understand how he doesn't realize what the hell's going on here. Because I'm sorry, he has to be really one of the dumb American classic ding dong doofuses I've ever met in my life. Okay. They're at the restaurant, and you could see her legs shaking because now she hasn't had a cigarette for 7 hours, as she noted. She goes, 7 hours into this date, and all I can think about is that in a few minutes I can get rid of this bozo and go get my emergency cigarette that's in my purse. Bozo. She considers him a bozo. How this comes back and bites her in the ass? It does. Okay? So, as her and the bozo, he says, hey, the waitress comes back, would you like to order dessert? And he's like, yeah, sure. She literally jumped out of her skin. She goes, no, no, oh my God, I have a deadline. I gotta go. And he goes, oh, I walked. She goes, no. And she is like on crack. She's a crackhead. It's official. And she runs out of the restaurant, leaves her jacket behind on the chair, doesn't even realize she doesn't have a jacket, runs to the corner street of 4th and Perry, because I noticed that. And she opens up the emergency side pocket of her purse to get the emergency cigarette that she has. The cigarette falls onto the floor. She screams bloody murder. She picks up the cigarette from the New York City street and cuts the tip that was wet from the floor so she can get her fix. Okay. Now you understand what I'm talking about. Okay. That's bad. As she's crawling on the floor, sitting down, Aidan comes back because he gets her jacket as he notices that she left it. He goes, Carrie, I think we have a problem. As she looks up, still with the cigarette in her mouth, she goes, yeah, yeah. I'm like, well, this is not funny at all. This is sad, to be honest with you. It's sad. So the next scene we have is that she's in her bathroom, looking at herself in the mirror, and she's narrating, we had some good times. And I'm sure that we could have had more good times. But I had to break it off. She takes her pack of cigarettes and she dumps them into the toilet. And as she's thinking about it, looking at herself, the last word she says, I hope he's worth it, as she puts on a patch, a nicotine patch, to get rid of her jonesing for the cigarette, for the man who ends up becoming the bane of all of our existence 30 years in. Here's where it starts. Epilogue. I haven't said that in a while. Stay tuned. Epilogue. Other than the fact that the rest of the characters were just peppered in here for slow, unmeaningful arcs, okay? The storyline of Charlotte just proves that she's always been pick-me girl, desperate, and she will make something work like a circle and a square peg kind of situation. Useless. We have the Valley of the Dolls to add Stanford to give the arc with Carrie deciding that she's going to stop smoking a little bit as they're both bitching about their crushes and how, there should be accepting on people that are accepting them for who they are. Useless. We have the story, the mini novella of Miranda and Steve and his menstruation time of the month, where he's bitching and moaning about her not being there for him and not wanting to be in this relationship, which, surprise, has always been there. Why are we surprised? I'm not. Even rewatching this, I'm like, it's always been there. She's always had a problem. He's just that she kind of tolerated some of the bitchiness that he has when it comes to certain scenarios. We have a very catty variation for Samantha as AKA J-Lo, no, so go, please. And a very important subject about race, religion, and the interactions and intermingling of it, which could have been done a lot better, but they chose to make it camp. Okay. And now we have the beginning of why we should have known back then what we know now. Aidan gave up his deal breaker to be with Carrie because I said before, Carrie is to Aidan the Mr. Big that Mr. Big was to Carrie. He just couldn't get enough of her. He was so naive to think that someone who maybe even smokes just for cocktails, which by the way, she wasn't having a cocktail while she was sitting on the stoop talking to him, should have had a red flag. He should have known that there's more to it than just saying, I'm going to stop smoking for you. And that leads to the descent of their relationship because from the minute that she told him that, oh, you own this place, and she narrates, the minute that lie came out of my head, I knew I was kind of sort of interested. You started off with a lie. You asked for a discount, and on top of that, an additional a discount after this guy asks you out for dinner. You call him a bozo because you rather have a cigarette because you went cold turkey just to prove to him that you only smoke during cocktails. He should have asked, and how many cocktails do you have a day? But no, Aiden is so blinded by, Carrie and her beauty that he can't see beyond the cigarettes and the smoke, which eventually turns into a fire because we all know what happens, right? And this is the lesson that we learn. We all have our deal breakers. And if you're going to go past your deal breaker, you better be sure that you know what you're getting yourself into and that that other person is as committed to you and the fact that your deal breaker is being broken, that it is worth it and you are worth it. Because at the end, even 20, 30 years later, it wasn't. And when you start off with a lie in any variation, whether it's, I didn't know this was your place, or, oh yes, I will buy this. I'm Carrie Bradshaw Designs. I only smoke a little bit. Whatever it is that you're trying to hide, the truth will always come out. So, this is it. This is the beginning of this crazy roller coaster that happens from here on in to the rest of the season, all the way into the reboot. So, tell me, what are your deal breakers? Have you given up some of your deal breakers, and has it been successful for you when you have? Were you able to get past that? Tell me how you felt about this episode, and now that you know how it actually ends, because even when it ended through the movie, the end of season 6, I believe, he's still in there for a brief moment, all the way into the recap. How do you feel about seeing this now and realizing that it all started with a lie? So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you all comment, like, share, subscribe if you haven't, for the actual 9% that view my channel and have yet decided to subscribe. Come on in. Come on in. Come to the dark side. There's no lying here. We're all open, and I would love to have you in my community. It took a while for me to get through this. I had to really think about how I wanted to present this, and I think I'm going to stick with this format. Because there's different ways that this show is given to us. Sometimes there's smaller arcs for the major people. There's major arcs for the smaller people. It can turn either way. So this is going to be one of the formats that I'm going to utilize. And we're going to go through it along with the other content that I like to bring in. And I hope that you guys actually watch and enjoy, or at least comment, because it helps the algorithm as I am trying to grow our community so we could be more expressive and have more people join and have their comments and see how they feel about this show. For many who are now just watching it or reviewing it for the first time, recrapping it, reviewing, whatever it is you're doing, come to our place. We're open here. And I want to thank everyone who has hyped, liked, subscribed, commented, shared. Because with that love, if I were to show you the amount of love that I want to give back to you, as I said in many of my other videos, I will literally smother you. Smother you. So from here to around the world that I am reaching, I want to wish you a blessed day, a blessed night, a blessed weekend, a blessed week, month, and year. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Mwah.